When was the last time that you looked at your insights on social media? Maybe that's why no one's buying from you. These QuickCast episodes are designed so that you can dive right into the world of social media, what's happening right now, trends that are working, and strategies that we're seeing success with. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to this week's Rocky Mountain Marketing QuickCast. Today, we're going to be talking about your ideal audience, your ideal buyers, and who actually is following you on social media. This is one of the very first things that I do when I sit down with a new client when we're onboarding them for their done-for-you social media. We at Next Step Social offer done-for-you social media services and podcast production, and it's really important to know who you're actually talking to, who actually is checking out your content and making sure that there is a correlation between who's checking out your content and who is actually buying from you. Now, there's a lot of tools that can help you with figuring out who your followers are, who your audience is on social media. And if you haven't checked recently, now's a great time. We're coming up here to the first of a fresh month. Maybe set aside the time, block out your calendar to just sit down for an hour and look at your audience and make sure that it is lining up. You can do this for free. So you don't need to have a bunch of the fancy tools. You can do this for free on your social media platforms of choice. So whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, all these platforms give you insights into who is following you and who is connecting with you. Now, LinkedIn has the premium feature too, so you can actually see what businesses certain people work at that have just viewed your content. But if you want to just see who's looking for free, you can. Once you've looked at your insights and said, okay, so I know that majority of my audience on Instagram are females between the ages of 35 and 44. And I know over on LinkedIn, I have a pretty 50-50 split, but they mostly have a C-suite position of a business at work has between, 100 and 1,000 employees, just for example. Now that you know who that is, you need to figure out what your buyer persona is. This is different than the people that might be following you. So what a buyer persona is imagine a imaginary character that is representing your ideal client based on market research. My friend Red, for those of you that attended Social Profit Lab last year in 2023, Red Staffstrom spoke about your imaginary best friend. And this is exactly what he was talking about. So again, for those of you that bought the VIP package, be sure to go back and watch his session because it's so good. Having this buyer persona figured out is like having your imaginary best friend. You know what kind of car they drive. You know if they're married, what their favorite band is. Do they go out to eat? Are they introvert, extrovert? What type of music they like? You know everything about this person. And you should have different personas for each of your social media platforms because they're probably not all going to be the same. Now, I'm fortunate the majority of the people that follow me on Instagram are women ages 35 to 44. And that's also very similar to my Spotify audience. I know if I include a link to the podcast from Spotify, a lot of them are going to click on it and convert over to listening to the show because they listen on Spotify anyways. It's an easy transition for them. Creating this buyer persona is crucial for understanding your customer characteristics and your customer preferences. I know that if I share pictures of me and my kids over on Instagram, it converts a lot better with my Instagram audience than it does with my LinkedIn audience. Again, because I have a different persona over on Instagram. A lot of them are mompreneurs. The struggle is real and they get that. Whereas over on LinkedIn, it's not that they don't care. They're just there to talk about something else other than trying to do work-life balance. When you figure out who is following you on these platforms, and like I said, you can do this for free. I use a tool called Metricool. Feel free to check them out. I use Metricool to look at all of my statistics and my demographics to see what's making sense. So look to see who's following you there. You're going to want to list out the key elements, including their demographic details, their career information, and then you're going to want to build out your buyer persona. And this is where AI can come into play. And it's very helpful to actually have this conversation with an AI tool like ChatGPT. They just rolled out the latest version, ChatGPT 4.0. And this is available for everybody, whether you have a paid account or not. You can have this conversation with ChatGPT about, okay, it looks like the majority of my audience is women between ages 35 and 44 on Instagram. They live in these cities. These are the product offerings that I have. What could some of their problems be? Also, your current clients. I created a type form and sent it out to all of my clients and asked them to fill it out. Ask them about their pain points. What was the biggest relief that they got from hiring my agency? Once you have all of this data, and you can just use a Google Sheet, there's free tools out there, folks, that you can use to make things easy. Build out this customer persona, this buyer persona, and keep it in your back pocket so that, okay, these are the people that are currently following me, and these are the people that are going to actually buy from me. And now for just a quick break. You've heard me talk about some of my favorite social media tools on the show, and one of them is a tool called Metricool. Metricool allows you to plan, analyze, and grow your digital presence all in one place. From websites to LinkedIn to YouTube, you can track everything that you're doing online and see just what's working and what isn't. Check out Metricool today at katiebrinkley.live/cool. All right, let's get back to today's show. We talked about doing a type form, looking at your social media analytics, looking at tools like Metricool. There's also Reddit is a great way. You can look at different statistical websites based on who you've identified as your buyer persona. There's a ton of free tools out there to help you figure out who it is that you are going to potentially be selling to and making sure that those are the people that are following you on social media. And once you have these buyer personas figured out, you can put them into a Google Doc, and then you will refeed it into a tool like ChatGPT. Build out this buyer persona, give it to ChatGPT and say, this is my ideal client on Instagram. Now, I know the majority of my Instagram followers, they will purchase my book, they'll listen to the podcast, they will watch my content, engage with it, and they will sign up for my free content calendar. However, over on LinkedIn, that's where I get most of my done-for-you service client, my done-for-you podcast production, social media services clients is over on LinkedIn. Two different offers. I know how I can just switch up the messaging of, let's say the main goal is for them to listen to this podcast episode. I'm going to have a very different way of approaching them and writing for them between those two different platforms. If you build out in ChatGPT under separate chats, don't do it all in one chat. Do a separate chat for LinkedIn buyer persona and Instagram buyer persona, Facebook buyer persona. And as you continue building out your buyer persona, these GPTs will learn from you, and you will be able to say, okay, here is the post I want to say. I want people to listen to this podcast episode about buyer personas. Drop it in there, and it will then craft it specifically for that audience. How cool is that, right? And when you're building these buyer personas, you're going to get as specific as possible. So for me, again, like Katie Brinkley, she loves coffee. I'm never going to give up coffee. I have at least 2, sometimes 3 cups a day, but it is my treat. Like, I absolutely love coffee. And it's not even necessarily for the caffeine because, so I actually started taking this Magic Mind product because it helps me keep going throughout the day. Like I said, I used to have at least 3 cups of coffee every day, and sometimes I'd have a 4th at 1:00 because I was getting tired. But I started taking this product called Magic Mind after my first cup of coffee, and it wasn't to replace my coffee. It was just to honestly help me get past that afternoon slump where I felt tired again, thinking I should maybe make a Starbucks run. But that actually, since I've started taking Magic Mind, that's gone away. But my buyer persona, for me, a coffee drinker, says, okay, Katie Brinkley has 3 cups of coffee a day. And sometimes now I used to get tired. She'll sometimes go and get a Starbucks run. Knowing all of the different aspects of your buyer persona, what it is that they like, what it is that they don't like, what their demographics are, their language, their income, their profession, their marital status. Do they like coffee? Do they hate coffee? Do they get the afternoon slump? Different personal characteristics. They're interested in Denver sports, or they hate sports and enjoy sitting at home with the book. What are their professional goals? What are their personal goals? What are their needs, their dreams, their challenges? All of these go in to that buyer persona. As Red said, it is your invisible best friend, the person that you know all about. And the more you know about this buyer persona, the easier it's going to be to create content for them. Because we're not creating content for ourselves here, folks. We know what a great service we have and what a great product we have. We're creating the content for them. Your buyer persona, they might not know that they need you yet. So the more that you know about your ideal client, your buyer persona, the easier it's going to be to sell to them and to create content specifically for them. If you've been using AI tools like ChatGPT and you're saying, oh, yeah, well, I throw stuff in, but I didn't even really think about this next level of content creation, or the stuff that ChatGPT is giving me just sounds really robotic. It's because of this. You have to build this into a GPT, and you can have it, like I said, I have it for my email. I have it for my LinkedIn articles. I have it for my LinkedIn posts, my LinkedIn polls. All the different ways I'm creating content, I've created custom GPTs for, and I've built it for all of these different buyer personas. If you need help trying to figure out buyer personas, I listed off a ton in this episode, but there's different tools out there. Again, I've mentioned Metricool before. They have a buyer persona feature built in. There's SEMrush, Visme persona template. But think about all of the things that make you you and build that in to your GPT as you're building out these client personas. Start creating these personas today. We're near the end of the month, getting close to a new month here. Start these today. Set aside some time to build these personas and continue nurturing your GPT and educating it on who your audience is on these platforms. And I promise you, the content that is going to be pushing out and delivering for you is going to help you make not just better content, but content that converts. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.